question marks as possible and make the process easier for you, whether you consider yourself a small or a big company, and even if you are only just now beginning to evaluate the market. So we can help with your evaluation by providing research on the workforce, identifying potential suppliers. If you have questions about taxes or general cost of doing business, we can help with that research. If you need help finding a law, you need to know reductions for you. So you also, of course, help find a facility or where. So the support that we are able to provide is customizable and tailored to each company that we speak with, and we take a lot of pride in that. So today I won't be going into a lot of detail about all of the different services that we could more or less support you with, because luckily we have some great industry leaders here today that will give you their firsthand experience on some of the different resources that they use throughout the state. But Vanessa and I will both be reaching out to each of you, and we hope to speak with you one-on-one so that we can figure out what exactly will make your company successful in the US and what state and local resources can we direct you to help get you to that point. So again, if you need to look at logistics or have questions about what skill sets are in the state, or if you want to be a supplier or need local suppliers, again, these are all of the different things that we can help identify for you. So I'll go ahead and end here so that we can keep the content for today as industry focused as possible. But please be on the lookout on some emails from Vanessa and I, and we look forward to speaking with you more after today's session. And I thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Nicolette. That was great. Great overview. I know we had some connectivity issues. There may be a little technical disruptions. If there are any questions, of course, please feel free to get in touch with us. You will be hearing from us tomorrow, as Nicolette said. So our next speaker today is Stephen Astomborski. Stephen is the director of the SC Aerospace Council. South Carolina has created a number of cluster initiatives that they have supported from a statewide perspective for a number of years. Aerospace is one of those clusters. And so Stephen comes to us from the industry. He has worked with a number of companies that are in the aerospace industry. And so we are fortunate to have his expertise with us in South Carolina as the state director. Stephen, take it away.
Thanks, Vanessa. So like Vanessa said, my name is Stephen Astomborski. I am the director of SC Aerospace. Next slide. And so SC Aerospace is a collaborative effort between the state of South Carolina, private industry, public entities, academic institutions, and nonprofit sectors all coming together to connect, support, and grow the industry in the state. Next slide. And so we are part of a larger organization called the South Carolina Council on Competitiveness. The council, as we refer to it, is made up of a few different industry clusters. There's SC Aerospace, which is the cluster that I lead. We have SC Tech and CyberSec, which focus on the tech and the cybersecurity industries. We have SC Logistics, which focuses on logistics, such as shipping and our ports and our cargo. And then we have Transform SC, which focuses on K-12 educational initiatives to ensure that we have a qualified workforce. And lastly, we have the SC Fraunhofer USA Alliance, which is a group that partners with the Fraunhofer Institute, the German Research Institute, and our state universities to secure funding for research projects to tackle the problems that many of our companies are seeing in their day-to-day work. Next. And the way we accomplish our work is through three main avenues of approach. First is through actionable research. Like I said, the Fraunhofer USA Alliance helps to secure funding and reviews the projects that many of these companies undertake with our universities, but also each of our clusters conducts its own research, and it's a deep dive into the industry makeup in the state. And I'm going to get into some of those numbers from our most recent economic impact study a little bit later in our slides. Secondly, like I said, we support our industry clusters. So that takes on a number of different types of events. So whether it's hosting webinars to feature our partner companies, it is hosting networking events. It's bringing in keynote speakers to discuss industry trends and topics that they think may be pertinent to our cluster. So we really try to create a good discussion around the aerospace industry and make sure that all our companies and our companies' leaders are all connected so that they can all work together and grow together. And then lastly, we focus on education and workforce development. And I'm going to get into this a little bit later as well, but that's focusing on our educational institutions and make sure that our companies that are here have the workforce needed to be successful. Next slide. So to give you an overview of aerospace in the Southeast in general, as you can see, there are a number of different aerospace companies throughout the Southeast. We do obviously have here, our big players in the state of South Carolina are Boeing in the Charleston area and Lockheed Martin in Greenville in the upstate. But we have a number of other companies in neighboring states such as Georgia, Florida, Alabama, with companies like HondaJet, Spirit Aerosystems, Embraer, Gulfstream. It's not on this slide, but I should even mention Pratt & Whitney just announced that they're going to be building a new engine facility just over the border in North Carolina, so not in South Carolina, but again, just close to our state because they see this clustering that's happening in the Southeast. Next slide. But more importantly, we're focused on South Carolina. There are over 400 aerospace companies in the state of South Carolina, which is a terrific achievement for this state. Like I said, our biggest anchors are the big, well-known name companies such as Boeing in the Low Country and Lockheed Martin in the upstate. But we have a number of other companies to help round out this industry, whether it's companies that work in the composites industry, such as a Toray or Solvay, companies that work in the parts industry, such as Technetics or Wyman Gordon. We have companies that do parts of the value stream, such as heat treating, like the solar atmospheres. Companies that focus on cargo shipping, such as ACL Air Shop. So you can see this is just a number of the different companies that we have in the state, which really shows that we have a wide variety of different parts of the aerospace ecosystem here. And again, I'm going to get into some numbers on what that means for our state. Next slide. So here's some of those numbers and some of those trends. As you can see, aerospace has a $28.8 billion direct and indirect impact on the state of South Carolina and contributes $14.13 billion to our GDP, which is incredible. But to show you how much aerospace has grown in the state, we often break down aerospace into AeroCore, which is sort of our manufacturing, our airlines, our shipping, things in that industry, and then the defense industry, which is the aerospace companies and support that usually are centered around military bases. And just 10 years ago, that AeroCore was only a small part of our aerospace industry, just about 23%. Since then, that has risen to 45.6%, and our military bases have stayed relatively the same size. So that shows just how much growth we're seeing in that aerospace core, that it's taking on even more and more of that piece of the pie. And it's really just, again, it's a testament to the clustering that's happening in the state and in the Southeast in general. In addition, our employment growth has been fantastic. The employment growth for the state of South Carolina on average is 2.2%. But in the aerospace industry, it's 10.7%. And that is right in line with our other large industry in the state, in the auto industry. But it really helps our state leadership, whether it be politics or other influencers in the state, to see the value of aerospace and want to make this state a good place for aerospace companies to come and do business. Another a great feather in the cap on our employment numbers is what we call the 2.7 multiplier, and that says that for every one aerospace job that's created in the state of South Carolina, 1.7 additional jobs are created on the back end. And so if you think about it, if you have to set up a company and set up a plant, hire a workforce, those people need to be supported directly with, different parts that they're going to be working on, or all the other pieces that go into running the company. But also those people are going to need to put their children in school and go to a grocery store and want a vacation and do all those other things. And so that's why we see had the thing coming over. That's why we have such a great multiplier. It really just, again, it shows how beneficial it is when we have aerospace companies come here to South Carolina. And then lastly, our employee compensation is very, very competitive in this state. As you can see, the average wage in South Carolina is about $45,000, but in the aerospace cluster, it's upwards of $81,000, and that even far outpaces manufacturing in general, which is just under $60,000. So it creates an environment where people want to go into the aerospace industry because they know it's going to be hard work, but they know that it's going to be beneficial work and that they're going to be able to provide for their families in the way that they want. Next slide. And so to give you an example of how our companies are spread out across the state, these three regions, over to the right, with the 36.5%, we call that the low country. In the middle there with 23.8%, we call that the Midlands. And then 39.7% over to the left is what we call the upstate. So as you can see, we're pretty evenly spread throughout the state. We do have a little bit more companies in the upstate than we do in the low country. And we actually have more employees in the low country than we do in the upstate, but it's still pretty even across the whole state. And really anywhere in the state that a company may want to go, they're going to be surrounded by other aerospace companies that are all moving in the same direction and wanting to do work together.
Stephen, if I can just interrupt you really quickly, I apologize. Yeah. We had technical difficulty and therefore no one saw the beginning of our webinar. So everyone is on now. Okay. I just want you to continue. If we can continue, we did give an overview of South Carolina for those attendees that are on the call, and I apologize if you did not hear. We will follow up with you individually and follow back and make sure that you have that information. Stephen, go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. And next slide. And then some just final numbers on employment in this state. As you can see over to the left, those are our employment numbers for numbers of employees in the aerospace core, and then on the defense side of things at our four major military bases that we have in the state. But the really great story is the numbers over on the right, which show the number of employees that we've had in 5-year increments in the employment or in the aerospace core. Starting with just over 3,000 in 1995, and we're sitting here in 2021 now, and the numbers from our most recent study show over 22,000, almost 23,000 employees. It's really just shows what a concerted effort the state of South Carolina has made into making aerospace one of its premier industries, and we only can think that this growth is going to continue in the future. Next slide. So some of the ways that the SC Aerospace organization in the council, the broader council, support the industry cluster through a number of initiatives, like I said. One of those initiatives is our YouTube page, where we feature many of our presentations and webinars that we've been hosting. This is a rather new thing that's been happening over the last year, as we've kind of had to switch more to virtual. But if you go to our YouTube page, you'll find a number of webinars and features by our companies. We've had Delta Bravo, which is an artificial intelligence company that works with our manufacturers to figure out their tough questions in forecast planning or preventative maintenance or scheduling. We've had another one of our partners, Lockheed Martin, present out to the cluster on the F-16 contract that they just won, both on new production and on maintenance. And so it's a really great opportunity for our partners, companies, to get in front of our cluster and engage with them and create a great discussion about what's going on in the industry. The next little box there that you see is our asset map. That's an asset map that we maintain and it shows the location of all, well, the over 400 companies that are here in the state of South Carolina, with the name, the type of work that they do, and a point of contact for that company. And this is a map that we maintain so that people know just down to the very detail what companies are here, where they can go if they need work to get done, and want to do that work here in South Carolina. And a number of other initiatives that we host. We have an SC Tech Talk coming up, which we're co-hosting with our logistics cluster. And actually at that talk, you're going to hear, or one of the featured speakers is a gentleman you're going to hear from in just a little bit, Steve Towns from ACL Air Shop. They're going to talk about their Find My ULD app, which won an Air Cargo News Award for innovation in the cargo industry. We're also going to be putting on an aerospace night with a local baseball team that we have here. It's an opportunity for our companies to get out and mingle with the public and recognize their employees, so that that we can tell the good story that aerospace is in this state. And then lastly, last year we hosted an aviation webinar with the Defense Logistics Agency, so that our companies could see the different opportunities that they have to go into defense contracting and to be a supplier for the United States Department of Defense. And so these are just some examples of the types of events that we host to again tell the good story that aerospace is in the state and promote future growth. Next slide. And then, like I said, we focus on workforce development, and there's a number of different avenues that we do for that. Right now, we currently have 7 aerospace high schools teaching a Southeast Regional Education Board approved aeronautical engineering curriculum. And this is a 4-year curriculum that high schools can use to teach STEM principles, so that students are learning those principles and come out well educated, but also it's used to help ignite that spark inside a child to want to go into, aeronautical engineering or to want to be a pilot, so that they can, they get exposure, and then they want to go into the industry that they may not have known about before those classes. We also have a 30 plus projects to lead the way, intros into aerospace taught throughout our high schools, which again is just another way that we engage with high school students to teach STEM principles using aeronautical engineering principles. We have the NASA Challenger Learning Center, which is a learning center with one of our school districts, which introduces flight to our students statewide, and introduces them to flight in space, again, igniting that spark. And then we have just a number of other camps, museums, and events that we try to partner with schools or with colleges to promote the aerospace industry to our students. Next slide. We also have a robust technical college system. We have 16 technical colleges spread out throughout the entire state, which give, award 2-year degrees in a number of different focused areas that our companies need, whether it's advanced manufacturing, welding, IT infrastructure. Of note, I should say that we have the South Carolina Aeronautical Training Center that's located at Trident Technical College down in Boeing, and they're there so that they can be in close proximity to Boeing and help train the workers that Boeing needs to build the planes that they build here in South Carolina. Also, we have up in the upstate in Greenville, we have the Center for Manufacturing Innovation, which is just a phenomenal facility, world class, where you can go and learn about CNC machining and welding and all the different types of trade skills that go into building planes and maintaining planes. And this technical college system is really one of the reasons that our companies, are able to find good, high quality workers and can deliver to their customers on time and to standard. Next slide. And then lastly, we have the University of South Carolina McNair Center, which is our aerospace research center located at the University of South Carolina. It awards Bachelor's of Science, Master's of Science, Master's of Engineering degrees in aerospace engineering. But it doesn't just do education. It creates an opportunity for students to come in and work with companies on industry research, companies like Boeing or Safran or the United States Air Force, Northrop Grumman, even NASA. So there's a lot of high-tech research that's going on there, and our students are right away, you know, from almost from day one, getting to interface with these companies, and oftentimes end up getting hired by the companies because they see the great work that they're doing. It also has a world-class research faculty with expertise in a number of different areas of the aerospace industry, from composites to predictive maintenance, combustion, unmanned aerial systems. And so again, the McNair Center helps many of these companies solve the you know, very challenging problems that they're seeing. And then lastly, I should mention, we also have another program in the Charleston area that's just being stood up now. I don't have a slide on it, but it is with Charleston Southern University. And whereas we see that the University of South Carolina focuses on aeronautical engineering, our program at Charleston Southern University focuses on sort of the business side of aeronautics, and that's partnered with a pilot program so that students have a pathway to be a pilot, and also learn the intricacies of, you know, airport management or airline management and business, so that again we can have a broad breadth of education for our students to go into to support the thriving industry here in the state. Next slide. So there's my contact information. If anybody has any questions and they'd like to contact me, please reach out to me via email, or you can see some of our information on our website. And again, I should mention our YouTube page that the council has. I will tell you, aerospace is an incredible industry to be in, and South Carolina, it may be the most exciting state to be in. And you know, we hope you land here in South Carolina. Thanks.
Stephen, that was excellent. Thank you very much. Such great information, and I apologize again for the technical difficulty. We will be sending this presentation out to everybody, and we can certainly connect you to Stephen if you have individual questions for him. So we'd like to move down our agenda now and get started with our panel. I would like to first introduce everybody. And then I would like each of you, as I introduce you, to tell us a little bit about your operation in South Carolina, how long you have been there, and what were some of the main drivers that really led to your decision, your company's decision to locate and expand in South Carolina. Ashley Holbrook is a 20-year veteran with Boeing. She is the Director of National Strategy and Engagement. Ashley, can you tell us a little bit about what Boeing is doing? They've been there for how many years now? Has it been 10 years?
Just a little over. So we've been here since 2009. So Boeing in South Carolina, we have about 5,500 people, excuse me, and we build the 787 Dreamliner, which is one of our wide-body jets here in South Carolina. We also have a research and development team down here. We have an interiors responsibility center down here. We do propulsion work down here on both the 787 and some engine nacelle work and design for the 777, and engine nacelle and manufacturing for the 737. So we started down here just thinking that we would do 787, and great story for both the Boeing company and South Carolina. We've expanded several times since then to add some of these newer pieces. So I will just to give a little bit of history to everybody. So in 2009, Boeing knew that we were going to need to build a second assembly line for the 787. Our demand was just too great to stick with the one that we had in Puget Sound. And so we had several options there. We could open a second 787 assembly line in Puget Sound, or we could really open it up and look all over the world and see if there was another location for us. I will tell you that that was history making for the Boeing company. We had only ever built commercial aircraft in Puget Sound. So it was a huge decision for us to leave the Puget Sound for the second line. And we really looked all over the world to figure out where best to do that. And we landed right here in South Carolina. So Before, there were only 2 places in the world building wide-body jets, and that was Puget Sound and Toulouse, France. And now there's only 3 in the world. So it's Toulouse, France, Puget Sound, and here in South Carolina. So happy to talk just a little bit about our experience and what drew us here and how it's gone for us for the last several years since then. People ask all the time why South Carolina. It's something I really love to talk about. There were a lot of factors that really had to come together all in one spot for us to choose to open something outside of Seattle. So I would say that the first that we really needed to find, and we need to talk about here today, is that motivated and capable workforce. We knew that there was a great workforce, an untapped workforce, if you will, here in South Carolina. A lot of people are very confused when I say that because when we came, 11 years ago, there was very, very little aerospace industry, as Stephen pointed out in his presentation. And so a lot of times people say, well, what do you mean capable workforce? And it's true that there were not a lot of people here in the aerospace industry, whereas in Puget Sound, you had generations of families who had worked for the Boeing company or for a lot of our suppliers. But we did know that there was a really strong work ethic here in South Carolina. There's a lot of military here in South Carolina. So we saw a lot of untapped potential. And Stephen also mentioned in his presentation, and I can't overemphasize enough how important the technical training system in South Carolina was to us. We partnered with Trident Technical College and a government agency called Ready SC down here. And Ready SC, not just for the Boeing company, but for any organization that wants to come and create jobs in South Carolina, they will train those people for you at no cost to your company. So we really took advantage of that here in South Carolina. That meant a very strong partnership with Trident Tech, who Stephen also mentioned. The entire technical training system here in South Carolina is second to none. But we've had a really great experience with Trident Tech. And as Stephen also mentioned, they have now built a South Carolina aeronautical training facility that Boeing is using, and their trainers who train Boeing employees are using, but really it's used for all of the aerospace industry across the state and is a real gem. Our research and technology folks will tell you that it is a world-class facility. And then also want to talk a little bit about the infrastructure bucket. So we needed both a site and a community that would be able to handle growth and expansion, and we really found that here in South Carolina. We knew that we would be bringing our few thousand employees, which we did, but we also knew that it was going to spur a lot of our suppliers and a lot of just the industry as a whole to grow down here, which is exactly what we've seen. And we knew that South Carolina could handle that growth. So that was a big piece of the puzzle for us too. We knew that we needed to be close to several different transportation modes. So South Carolina has rail, port, and airport. That's really world class too. So another piece that was very important to us. And then I couldn't say that any one of these 3 items is more important than any of the other, but if you made me pick under duress, I would probably say the supportive state government. So I really cannot overstate how supportive the government here is in the state of South Carolina. And I mean that at every level, from the federal delegation to the state leaders to our more local elected officials. They just really all look at Boeing's success as their own success. And that has helped us build some really strong, really good relationships. On the federal side, both House and Senate leaders on both sides of the aisle across parties have really been supportive. And when I say supportive, what I mean is they take the time to know our business. They show up on site. They spend a lot of time talking to us and really understand how the regulations and laws that they're working on in Washington, D.C. will impact our business. Great relationship there. State leaders, same way. We spend a lot of time with our state leaders down here. They understand firsthand tax implications, employee law implications. They're just very invested in the businesses in South Carolina, and that's been a huge help for us. And then local leaders, I like to tell the story that we built a 1.2 million square foot facility from the ground up to build airplanes, which had never been done in South Carolina at this level. And we finished that building 7 months ahead of schedule and under budget. And people asked us all the time, across the company even, how in the world did you guys accomplish that? And a lot of it was actually the partnership with the local government. So our local government here, our mayor's office, hired somebody, put somebody on staff specifically for the Boeing company, so that if we needed anything inspected, at 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning, they had somebody working 24 hours to come out and do that. So that kind of partnership really has been a huge part of Boeing's success here in the state. So I'm going to turn it back over to you guys, but that's a hopefully not too long version of how we came to the state.
Ashley, that's fantastic. I didn't realize all of that, having someone in the mayor's office. That is fantastic. Great information. So moving on, Steve Towns is with us from Ranger Aerospace. Steve is the CEO and president. He has bought and sold companies around the globe. His company started out in South Carolina, grew in many other places, and has now come back home to South Carolina to grow more. Steve, tell us a little bit about your company and how you've grown over the years, and how South Carolina has really fit the bill for you in terms of being in the middle of the industry.
Sure, thank you, and hello everybody. It's nice to join all of our colleagues in Germany. Ranger Aerospace is not as big as Boeing or Lockheed, and keep in mind there are other big companies in South Carolina like BAE Systems, the Intertech group of companies, Honeywell Aerospace, Toray Composites, and many more. So the top level of our aerospace food chain is well represented here and in adjacent states. I represent the middle market, the medium-sized company. Our enterprises right now employ roughly 300 people, but we have operations all around the world at 55 of the world's top 100 air cargo airports, all the way from here to Shanghai and many places in between. We're here by choice. We're here by design. It's a great place to do business for medium-sized companies that are looking to get into the aerospace ecosystem with plenty of supply chain aggregation, plenty of workforce feedstock coming from the technical colleges and the high schools, and to grow a business right here. It's business friendly. It is a right to work state, which means it has very little unionization. There are state incentives to grow and establish businesses here that the South Carolina Department of Commerce can tell you about. It's a nice place to live. The cost of living is reasonable. The cost of doing business is reasonable. And if you think about where South Carolina sits in the world, we're in the middle of one of the fastest growing regional concentrations of aerospace and aviation industries and companies in the entire world. The 5 or 6 southeastern US states are a fantastic growing concentration of supply chain aggregation and primes and military bases, and that all plays together to serve the middle market very well. You would not be coming into a situation where you have to say, oh, how will I establish a workforce? How can I have a new facility? It's all here in terms of resources available. For example, as a middle market company, we think it's very impressive that there are 16 technical colleges and 7 aviation high schools. 5 years ago, there were no aviation high schools, and the voice of industry from South Carolina Aerospace initiated that and said, we need more kids coming out of high school who recognize that this is a really good career. So that's an initiative that started with industry and then went to academia and government, because all three work together all the time in South Carolina to help a new company establish and grow here. I think it's also very impressive when you think about how the industry supply chain has been aggregating here. If you're part of that supply chain, anywhere up and down the food chain, you can find a nice home here in South Carolina. whether it's in the low country with Boeing or the Intertech Group in the middle part of the state with people like Toray Composites and many others, or here in the upstate of South Carolina where we are, we're growing a worldwide enterprise from right here. In our past ventures, in fact, 24 years ago when we started, Ranger Aerospace was a startup and maybe a good idea. What if we could buy and build up companies right here at home in my industry? Because this is my 41st year in aerospace. So 24 years ago, that was, I guess it was an okay idea, but we started it here. It was a risk. It was a personal risk, and it was a bet that we made on growing businesses here in South Carolina. Since then, Ranger Aerospace has been the management stewardship for almost $500 million worth of investments and growth projects all around the world, but we are headquartered right here in South Carolina. Our biggest enterprise had 4,250 people. It's now a subsidiary of a $5 billion company in aerospace. One of our military operations grew to 1,250 people. It's now a subsidiary of a $3 billion giant engineering company. And today, as you see on the screen, ACL Airshop, 38 years ago, was a small company taking care of pallets and containers for the cargo fleets. Today, this company is the largest in the world for the short-term leasing solutions of pallets, containers, straps, nets, plus very innovative new technologies, first in market technologies for the control and logistics management of those types of fleets for over 200 airlines customers all around the world. What you see is a new factory that we opened up in May of 2019. We could have put that factory any place. We could have outsourced it to overseas locations at much lower cost. We could have moved it into lower cost locations in the United States, like maybe the mountains of Tennessee. We deliberately put it here. We deliberately made that as a statement to say, companies around the world should look at this. If a company like us can make that multi-million-dollar investment right here in South Carolina, it was profitable from the day it opened. It will stay profitable for the next 2 or 3 decades. This is a really good place to do business as a middle market company or a smaller company in the supply chain. Our company is living proof that you can be successful here, and the state will support you in many, many ways.
Steve, that is fantastic. Congratulations to you on building such a successful company over 41 years. Amazing. Let's go on now to dive in a little bit deeper. I'm sorry, before I move on, we did want to talk to Lockheed Martin, is also a guest on today's call. Leslie Farmer or Andrew Dill, are you on the call today?
Yes, hey, this is Leslie Farmer. I am the communications lead here for our Lockheed Martin Greenville facility. Andrew Deal, who is with our government affairs group, was planning to join, but unfortunately had to go to our Capitol State House for some legislative meetings. So I'm going to be supporting today. But just a little bit about Lockheed Martin here in Greenville. So we have been at this location for 37 years now. And like Ashley and Steve have said, you know, the reasons for Lockheed Martin to come to the state of South Carolina really have been around, you know, our workforce, pipeline opportunities, the quality of life here in the state, and then certainly the support and the advocacy that we've received, you know, from all levels of our elected officials and delegations. Here for what we do at our Greenville facility, we have traditionally been a sustainment operation, so providing modifications, repair, overhaul, upgrades to existing aircraft platforms such as the C-130, C-5, P-3, as well as some commercial platforms. And in addition to that sustainment work, we are now the home of the F-16 production line. So the F-16 Fighting Falcon is a fighter jet that Lockheed Martin has produced for 40 plus years, and that production line was previously based in Fort Worth, Texas. The announcement was made to move that line here to South Carolina back in 2017. So we are now the production site for all new F-16 aircraft. In addition to that, we recently won a contract with the U.S. Air Force to establish the first U.S.-based depot to support F-16 overflow for the U.S. Air Force fleet. So we actually just received our first aircraft from the Air Force for that program just last week. So we are getting started on that. So really just a lot of great things happening here at our site, a lot of growth and expansion planned, for the next several years as a result of that, of the continued production interest, as well as the new depot, F-16 depot that we're setting up. But really, just to echo, from a location perspective, South Carolina has been truly great, a partner and supporter. And one of the things that we have found to be very unique and beneficial is, South Carolina, as much as they are focused on certainly attracting new companies and new business to the state, they are also that invested and interested in helping existing industry within South Carolina grow. And we have certainly been a product of that, for the past 37 years. So appreciate the opportunity to join today. And look forward to talking about, how we can help support even more.
Thanks, Leslie. That was really fantastic information. I'm happy to hear that the federal, state, and local entities have been so helpful to all of you as you've grown your businesses in South Carolina. Ashley, I'd like to come back to you. Many of the companies that are on today's call, they're really thinking about logistics infrastructure. It's on their mind. How are they going to bring products in? How are they going to move people and products around? What has been Boeing's experience in working with the state infrastructure assets throughout the state? And how have you seen that kind of the quality of that increase over time?
Sure, and it's a great question, and certainly something that we were very conscious of when we made our decision to locate here. There used to be a military leader in the state that called Charleston the crown jewel of intermodal transportation, and it's stuck with me, and I repeat it because I find it to be true. So I think it was Steven's map that you guys may or may not have seen earlier in the webinar, but South Carolina is located kind of directly between Miami and New York, on the eastern seaboard, obviously. So we are actually, as a state, located kind of in a lot of what I would call the hub area. And from South Carolina, you can be either at Charlotte International Airport or Atlanta depending on where you are. I think the longest distance is 3 or 4 hours, and the shortest distance could be an hour, hour and a half. So in addition to what we have here in the state, we're also very strategically located between two great international airports that we take full advantage of at Boeing. I would say that we have a very supportive South Carolina Department of Transportation. So in terms of interstate highway, we are bringing in a lot of oversized equipment into the state a lot of the time, and that requires a lot of direct contact with DOT, so with our Department of Transportation. So I would say in that way, again, you really can't overemphasize how important it is to have these great relationships with state leaders, even in an infrastructure or transportation sense. So we've had a great fortune and great relationships that have helped us there. We also have several runways in the state that are over 10,000 feet. So we, Boeing, haven't needed that yet, but it was definitely a decision. It was something to put in the pro column of South Carolina when we were thinking about how to locate. That's a really long runway. And one of those runways, the one in Charleston, is actually co-owned between the Department of Defense and the community. So the runways are technically owned by the Department of Defense and Charleston Air Force Base, which means that they maintain those runways to a very high standard. Commercial airports obviously also maintain their runways to a high standard, but there is something about that military component that's very comforting to us. And again, we work very well both with the community side of the airport and with the defense side of the airport. The leadership at Charleston International has been fantastic. The executive director over there is great to work with. They have also recently added, and I think this might be fluctuating a little bit due to COVID, but I have I have all the faith in the world that we'll be back to normal soon. But they had started a direct flight from Charleston to London. So it was a great way for us to kind of get into a hub in Europe and be able to travel extensively from there. The one thing I'm missing that I would be remiss if I didn't add is the port. We have a really robust, highly efficient port. And one of the things that Boeing has found is it is not crowded the way some of the West Coast ports can be. But it's highly efficient and world-class as well. They actually will be opening next month, I believe, the first ground-up terminal since 2019, which will be able to handle a whole lot of port traffic. So again, that was a really important piece for us, the knowledge that we would be able to connect across the country via the port. So all those things together. Sorry, Steve.
No, when you're done, I was going to add to it. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Okay, no, that's fantastic. All those things together really do make Charleston and South Carolina as a whole a really easy place to do business from an infrastructure standpoint. I'll toss it over to you, Steve.
Thanks, Ashley. That's a great description, especially for the really good infrastructure in and around the Low Country, but also up here in the north part of the state. From an aerospace perspective, this is a very strong intermodal hub. If you take a look at where GSP International Airport is, there's a reason why Michelin Western Hemisphere operations are headquartered here. There's a reason why BMW North America is headquartered here. In fact, more BMWs are made here in South Carolina than in Germany. And one of the reasons why it's so attractive here from an intermodal infrastructure point of view is the combination of rail, road, and air, and ocean shipping. Now you might ask, Steve, where's the ocean compared to Greenville, South Carolina? It's right at the airport. We have a beautiful airport. There's a new cargo center at the airport. Some of our 747 freighter customers are flying in and out of here every week. And right next to the airport is the inland port, which has direct nonstop rail service to the port of Charleston and back and forth like that. So it's a really good place in terms of infrastructure, and there's a lot of investment to keep making it bigger and stronger, which is great for any size company in the aerospace industry that needs to ship things in and out. Our company is living proof. We have things going all around the world with our customers 24/7 from right here.
Steve, fantastic. Thank you for adding that. I know talent is on the mind of a lot of companies, and attracting talent. I think South Carolina is an easy place to attract and relocate if you are looking for work. If companies are looking to bring in new talent, it's a wonderful place to be able to relocate to in the U.S. Leslie, can you talk a little bit about Lockheed Martin and how they have utilized some of the state resources like the state workforce training program or some of the community colleges that Stephen had spoken about in his presentation? How has Lockheed Martin really leveraged those to make sure that they have a truly top-notch workforce in South Carolina?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say, the workforce pipeline and just the different infrastructure in the state to specifically create, a qualified and talented workforce has certainly been a big reason why we originally located to South Carolina, but have continued to bring additional business even from within the company here, such as that production line. I know that we've touched on the technical college system, and really enough cannot be said of just how much of a world-class operation that is, and with all of the various trainings, qualifications, certifications that entire system offers. Here for our Greenville site, we partner very closely with Greenville Technical College, who specifically has an aircraft maintenance training program. And in partnership with them, Ready SC, which Ashley mentioned, and the entire South Carolina Technical College system, we've been able to set up a pre-apprenticeship program, which essentially takes, qualified candidates who are interested in the aircraft, aerospace, technical sector, and essentially provides them specific Lockheed Martin training and evaluations to then bring them into our workforce at an apprentice level and essentially grow their career from there. That has been extremely beneficial and helpful as we have started our F-16 production line and cultivating the talent that is coming out of the technical college system. As Ashley mentioned, Ready SC, so that is another big partner and is such a great resource in the state, and being able to provide training at no cost to companies, whether it's existing workforce or people who we're bringing into Lockheed Martin to create customized training that specifically meets our needs and what we're going to need, from a talent and workforce perspective. I'll say another big piece from a South Carolina perspective that we have really been able to tap into and leverage has been the military communities. We have definitely a strong military presence here in South Carolina, and so we have found that members in the military who are either retiring or simply wanting to make that transition into the civilian side, we have been able to utilize a lot of that talent, and obviously with their military background and experience has created such a great pipeline for all that we do here at Lockheed Martin. So I would say, certainly from a technical perspective, there are certainly a lot of different avenues, a lot of different ways that the state is cultivating and ensuring that quality talent and workforce pipeline. And then certainly with our four-year education institutions like Clemson University and University of South Carolina and the McNair Center, being able to really utilize those institutions for, our support personnel, our everything from program management, finance, everything that it takes to essentially be able to support our technical aircraft operations. We have not had a problem of recruiting talent here in South Carolina, and we certainly don't expect that as we continue to grow.
Great, wonderful, that's great to hear. So we're coming up to the end of our hour. We do have one guest in our audience that I would like to somehow bring up. We have Duke Energy is one of the largest utilities in the US. They are on our webinar today in the audience. They would like to share with the companies that are on our call today the services that they have available to companies. And I am trying to figure out now how I'm able to do that. Let's see. Oh, the lovely world of technology.
Vanessa, you should be able to unmute all of the attendees.
Jim, are you there on the line?
I am, Vanessa. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Jim. Take it away.
Great, great. I'm excited to join today and would love to just welcome our European representatives on the phone today. I've been recruiting aerospace since 2012, and of course, who wouldn't like to go to Farnborough and London air shows and eBase in Geneva and the Interior Show in Hamburg? But I've really enjoyed working with the South Carolina team South Carolina, and who I know is committed to growing aerospace and the aviation industry. I did want to share again that South Carolina just seems to lead the way in the Southeast. As you know, Duke covers about 6 states, and South Carolina is always first, is leading in foreign direct investment, of course. And it asked to speak about our experience. Well, obviously, with over 400 aviation companies and over 100,000 employees in South Carolina, you know, whether in commercial, defense, space, UAS, Duke is partnered with each one of these companies within our service territory. And it's our job to understand customers and their needs. So whether you're making ceramic composites or you're a metal fabricator using CNC machining, or you have some of the largest autoclaves in the US, our job is to eliminate risk for you from a powers perspective. So that's what we do on a daily basis. We understand the ins and outs of aviation and partner with those on site. Myself and Steve work in 2 different capacities within Duke, but aviation is obviously a very attractive market for us, and we look forward to working with anybody out there. You're welcome to contact either one of Steve or I, since we're running out of time here, but thank you for including us today, Vanessa.
You're welcome. Great. So for the companies on the call today, you have a host of resources available to you as you are evaluating which U.S. states from which to do business. Please consider South Carolina. We will be sharing this presentation from today with you. We apologize for the technical challenges earlier, but if there are any questions, I am happy to put you in touch with the right person, and we're happy to answer any questions, additional questions you may have. We thank you for today. Have a wonderful rest of the day and a rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Bye-bye.